On the other side of the coin, regarding the battle, is the server architecture. And this is something, being a huge nerd that I am, I'm quite proud of. So there has been talk earlier on this conference about how the cloud is something that we are probably, as a game industry, will be leveraging. To us, it made perfect sense, and we've already implemented this system. See, our game essentially is, for all intents and purposes, a website. So the website game part is hosted like any other website. That's where the technologies are sitting, we have a database, and that's where people interact for the most of the time. Now, when you challenge somebody in a battle, the website finds the closest battle server between the two opponents around the world. And we use a cloud front that has servers in Western Europe right now and in and on the east coast of the US, with plans of expanding into Asia. So using a fairly straightforward algorithm and based on IPs, we can say if there is a fellow in Singapore that wants to fight somebody in Berlin, for example, it'll figure out the best battle server to use and then delegate that server to that. The concept itself is really fairly straightforward. However, the beauty of the CloudFront is that we, as a small company, don't have to invest tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to purchase physical machines in various places around the world and maintain those machines. Because our game is intended to be very scalable. So we have peak hours and off hours like any other game. So what that allows us to do is, as demand goes up, we automatically turn on more servers. As demand goes down, we turn them off. And that allows us to have the maximum amount of cost savings because we are really only paying for what we get and nothing else. Third thing that I want to mention of a pre-launch that we did was that we track everything. Now, that might sound a little Big Brother-ish, but to be honest, it is really, really important and it's for our users' benefit. So for every single table that tracks one particular aspect of what the player has in regards of parts, in regards of currency in game or stats, there are another 2 or 3 tables, at least, that keep track of when they acquired that part, what have they done with that part, what page have they spent most of their time on. And it allows us to really inspect and analyze the data based on what people are doing. And this allows us to be reactive to how things are being played. And if there's a feature that we add in that we think is going to work, and it doesn't, well, then we'll know very quickly. We don't have to guess. Okay, so enough about this, all this nice good stuff. Let's talk about some bad stuff, because that's what the people really want to hear. What went wrong? Well, this is kind of a funny thing, but one of the things in my mind that went wrong was the question of when do we launch? And it might be an odd thing to say that's a bad thing, but we actually had quite a lot of just struggle of figuring out exactly when do we turn the lights on and let people play this game. Because coming from a background of traditional game development, much like the movie industry, when a game is announced, there are literally months, if not years, of hype building, of trailers, of teasers, of interviews, of demos, that come out, all amalgamating up to this one critical point, which is opening day, to try and make as much money as possible in the fastest amount of time possible. And the reason why this is because there's just so little shelf space out there. You know, the measure of window that you have to actually do what you want to do is to sell as much as you can, is sometimes as short as weeks. Now, if your game really kicks ass, and it's getting rave reviews, and you're getting lots and lots of good press about it, then you'll probably be able to kind of float that peak for a little while longer. But to be honest, you really only have one shot. Now, this was kind of a hard paradigm and a hard thing to break, because that window of opportunity that is different. It isn't just one window when it comes to the internet. because the fact that it is essentially a plain old website, we could boast about it as much or as little as we want. And if the first 1,000 people that show up, and 999 of them hate the game and leave, one of the big things is that because they have spent absolutely zero cost to be able to actually try the game, because if I haven't mentioned, the game is free to play, then there's no upfront investment from them. Because when you guys go to Electronics Boutique and you're really pumped for a game and you drop 60, 70 bucks on it and you play it and it sucks, you're going to be pretty pissed off, and you'll probably tell all your friends. With a web game, if you stumble upon a web game, you give it 5-10 minutes and it's like, meh. Well, you know what? You probably aren't going to really. You'll probably move along. You might not never come back again, but you're probably not going to spread the word, cry havoc about how crappy that game over there sucked. So, given the fact that there's just literally, as of last count, like 1.6 billion people connected online around the world, if you have the game translated in multiple languages and you have that sort of reach, you essentially have an almost unlimited amount of people to try out your game. So that's a lot of experimentation that can be done. So really, when we were comfortable enough to finally say, okay, I think our servers are ready to be able to handle any load that we think we can throw at them, at that point it was time to turn on the lights. And that question took a long time to answer. Putting my nerd hat back on a bit, because I am a programmer, one of the big bad things that happened in my mind was JavaScript. And the prototype wasn't supposed to be a prototype. In fact, what we wanted to do is we wanted to have accessibility as an important aspect of the game, so every browser out there has JavaScript. So you just go to the web page and you can play. And that was sort of the pipe dream, that we could just do that. We didn't have to use any plugins, we didn't have to use any accelerators, nothing. Just use JavaScript. Well, we started the dance, and we fell flat on our faces. It was not a pretty sight. And I honestly should have not been as stubborn, and I have lots of web development friends, and they go, Mark, you're crazy. You're never going to be able to make a game that's even 1,000th times as cool as the stuff that you used to make with JavaScript. And they're right. JavaScript is a loosely typed scripting language that is inconsistent across every single browser. All of them have little quirks. The language itself behaves differently in a lot of cases. It also leaks like a sieve. So if you have a game on for long enough, it will take down your machine. It's just a whole round of bad. So what did we have to do? Well, we had to switch to something else. And the most obvious choice was Flash. But before I get into that, I'll talk about the other technologies that we use.